Most anime movies are filler. They exist to sell tickets, burn time, and reset the status quo before the next season starts. But on September 19th, 2025, Chainsaw Man dropped a bomb that destroyed that reputation. The Reze Arc film broke box office records and took home the Screen Award for Best Anime Movie. It proved that a 90-minute anime film could carry the same narrative weight as a live-action prestige drama. Studio MAPPA took a 12-chapter tragedy about a boy, a girl, and a bomb, and turned it into the defining cinematic event of the year. This is how they did it. To understand why this movie succeeded, we have to look back the contracting movies in this little. To understand why this movie succeeded, we have to look back the character descriptions in 2022. Chainsaw Man Season 1 was brilliant, but it was divisive. Director Ryu Nakayama aimed for grounded, cinematic realism, which left some fans craving the chaotic energy of the manga. For the Reze arc, MAPPA handed the reins to Tatsuya Yoshihara, the action director who understood exactly what the series needed. Yoshihara refined the cinematic ambition, rather than abandoning it. He blended the grounded character acting of the first season with the explosive, neon-soaked insanity that Tatsuki Fujimoto's art is famous for. The result was a film that felt like an art house romance one minute and a kaiju disaster movie the next. Adapting manga arcs into movies is a gamble. Demon Slayer's Mugen Train worked because it was a self-contained train ride, but other series often fail by stretching thin material. The Reze arc, spanning chapters 40 to 52, was mathematically perfect for a feature film. There is no fluff here. The story follows a traditional 3-act structure naturally: the meet cute, the reveal, and the tragic climax. By restricting this story to a 90-minute runtime, the pacing moves with the urgency of a ticking clock. Every quiet moment in the cafe hits harder because the audience knows the explosion is coming. It turned a short manga arc into a tight, breathless thriller. Denji's life has always been about survival, but Reze introduced him to something more dangerous: hope. Her introduction in the rainy phone booth marked a shift in genre rather than a mere plot point. For the first 30 minutes, this is a romance instead of a battle shonen. Reze works at a cafe, laughs at Denji's jokes, and treats him like a human being rather than a tool. Reina Ueda's vocal performance sold the duality perfectly. Sweet enough to make you fall in love, yet possessing a hollow quality that hinted at her true nature. She represents the normal teenage life Denji never had, which makes the eventual betrayal sting so much worse. We are breaking down every major anime release this year, so if you want to stay ahead of the curve, hit subscribe and ring the bell. You won't want to miss our breakdown of the upcoming Assassin's arc. If you ask fans to name the standout moment of the first half, they point to the school at night. They cite the break-in, the run through the halls, and the swim in the pool. It feels like a scene from a French New Wave film rather than a Shonen Jump adaptation. The lighting team at MAPPA outdid themselves here, using the moonlight reflecting off the pool water to create a dreamlike, hazy atmosphere. It is the happiest Denji has ever been. This sequence lulls the audience into a false sense of security. We forget about the Gun Devil, we forget about Makima. For a few minutes, it is just a boy and a girl learning how to swim, and that innocence is necessary for the horror that follows. Then comes the festival. The fireworks scene is perhaps the most iconic panel in Fujimoto's manga, and the movie adaptation did not miss. The contrast is jarring. Colorful explosions light up the sky, the music swells with romantic strings, and then Reze bites Denji's tongue off. The sound design cuts out instantly. The ringing in the ears replaces the music. It is a masterclass in sensory overload followed by sensory deprivation. This moment marks the death of the rom-com and the birth of the thriller. The transition from the kiss to Reze's cold, assassin-like efficiency is terrifying, reminding us that in this world, intimacy is often just a weapon. When Reze pulls the pin in her neck, the animation shifts gears completely. The Bomb Devil design is sleek, terrifying, and distinctly mechanical compared to the visceral gore of Chainsaw Man. MAPPA used a blend of 2D animation for the character movement and specific CGI for the explosions, creating a sense of heat and impact that you can almost feel through the screen. Her head is literally an atomic bomb, and the film treats her detonations with appropriate weight. Unlike standard anime explosions that feel like decorative sparkles, these blasts tear through buildings and vaporize concrete. It showed the terrifying scale of the hybrids and raised the stakes for every fight scene that followed. The highway confrontation is where action director Yoshihara really flexed his muscles. We see Denji riding Beam the Shark Devil, chaining his saws into buildings to drift around corners, like a vehicle. The camera work here is active, sweeping through the city streets without cutting away, allowing us to track the geography of the fight. It is chaotic, yet readable. The film captures the improvisation of Denji's fighting style. He isn't a martial artist, he's a brawler who uses his chains to bind Reze and drag her into the ocean. This battle proved that MAPPA had solved the 3D to 2D integration issues that plagued early productions. Beneath the explosions lies a tragic reality. Reze is a child soldier raised by the Soviet Union, stripped of her humanity to become a weapon rather than just a monster. The movie includes a brief, haunting flashback montage of her training that wasn't as detailed in the manga, adding a layer of sympathy to her character. Like Denji, she never went to school. Like Denji, she is owned by the state. The parallel between them is heartbreaking. They are two dogs on different leashes, fighting because their masters told them to. This thematic depth lifted the film above a standard action flick. It made the villain as sympathetic as the hero. The climax on the beach strips away the spectacle. Wet, exhausted, and broken, Denji and Reze have a final conversation that redefines their relationship. Reze claims her feelings were all an act, a part of her training to get close to the chainsaw heart. But the animation tells a different story. The slight hesitation in her eyes and the tremble in her voice suggest that the mission was fake, but the connection became real. Denji, in his simple wisdom, chooses to believe in the best version of her. He offers to run away with her, not as a devil hunter, but as a fugitive. It is a moment of pure, naive love that prepares the audience for the crushing finale. The metaphor of the country mouse versus the city mouse runs through the entire film. The country mouse gets safety, but no peace. The city mouse gets delicious food, but lives in constant danger. Reze initially chooses the safety of the mission, but in the final act, she turns around. She misses the train. She chooses the city mouse life. She chooses Denji. Watching her walk back toward the cafe is one of the most tense sequences in anime history. There is no music, just the sound of crowds and footsteps. We want her to make it and get the happy ending. But this is Chainsaw Man, and happy endings are rare currency. Then, Makima appears. If Reze is the explosive threat, Makima is the silent one. The alleyway scene is directed like a horror movie. Makima doesn't need to scream or transform. She just stands there, blocking the path to happiness. Her line, "I also like the country mouse," ends Reze's story. The fight that follows is one-sided and brutal. It reestablishes the power hierarchy of the series. No matter how strong the bomb is, the control devil is always in charge. Seeing Reze reach out for Denji one last time before fading away left theaters in absolute silence. It was a reminder that Denji's owner does not share her toys. When the numbers came in, the industry was shocked. R-rated anime films usually have a ceiling, but Reze smashed through it. Grossing over $170 million globally, it outperformed family-friendly competitors and became a cultural phenomenon. Existing fans were not the only audience members. The word of mouth about the romance movie that turns into a horror film brought in general audiences too. It beat out major Hollywood releases in its opening weekend in Japan. This success proved that adult-oriented animation is not a niche market, becoming a blockbuster powerhouse when executed with this level of quality. Winning the Screen Award for Best Anime Movie in 2025 was the final validation. Critics often overlook shonen adaptations, viewing them as merchandise commercials rather than art. But the judges cited the film's fearless direction and psychological depth as reasons for the win. It stood alongside films from Hayao Miyazaki and Makoto Shinkai, proving that a story about devils and gore could also be deeply human. This award signaled a shift in how the industry views franchise films. They are cinema, not merely content. MAPPA created a piece of film history instead of simply adapting a manga. The movie ends with a teaser that terrified the audience. The announcement of the International Assassins arc. With Reze gone, the world knows about Denji's heart. The safety of Tokyo is gone. The tone of the series shifts from romantic tragedy to absolute paranoia. While the Reze movie focused on intimacy, the next saga centers on chaos. We saw glimpses of the Darkness Devil in the post-credits, a visual so abstract and terrifying that it promised to push the animators to their absolute limits. The bar has been set impossibly high, but if anyone can clear it, it is this team. The Chainsaw Man Reze Arc movie is the gold standard for modern anime, going far beyond a successful adaptation. It took a story about a boy who just wanted to be loved and turned it into a visual masterpiece that swept the 2025 award season. It proved that violence and beauty can coexist, and that anime films can challenge their audience rather than just placating them. As we wait for the next chapter, fireworks displays will undoubtedly feel different. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.